प्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिं रम्यजामातरि योगीन्द्र पादरे कामयं सदा तदा यत्तात्मसत्तादिं रामानुजमुनिं भजे लोकगुरुं गुरुभिः सह पूर्वैः पूरकुलोत्तमदासमुदारं श्रीनगपत्यभिरामवरेशौ दीप्रशयान गुरुं च भजेऽहं लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्ट जीवजीवातवे नमः। लोकाचार्य कृते लोकहिते वचनभूषणे तत्त्वार्थदर्शिनो लोके तन्निष्ठाश्च सुदुर्लभाः जगदाचार्य रचिते श्रीमद् वचनभूषणे तत्त्वज्ञानञ्च तन्निष्ठां देहिनाथे यतीन्द्रमे। The most merciful Lokacharya has given us this wonderful grantham named SrIvachana Divya Shastram. This grantham is glorified as Divya Shastram because it brings out the most important principles of Shastram in the most precise manner. In this grantham, we have seen up to 307th sutram. This grantham is divided into 6 parts based on the principles, 6 principles which this grantham is revealing. Purushakara Vaibhavancha Sadhanasya Gauravam Tadadhikari Krityam Asya Sadgurupasevanam Haridayam Hetukim Gurorupaya Tanchayo Vachanabhushane Vadat Jagat Gurum Tamashraye. It's a beautiful shlokam explaining how this grantham is divided into 6 parts, where Lokacharya has explained Sadhanasya Gauravam of Bhagavan Sriman Narayana Tadadhikarikyam, the one who pursues Bhagavan as the sadhanam, as the upayam, the prapanna, sharanagata. How does such person conduct himself? That is explained in the 3rd section. Next section, 4th section, is Sadgurupasevanam. How a Sadguru, a real Acharya, is served by a disciple. That is the 4th section. 5th section is talking about Bhagavan Nirhetuka Kripa, the unconditional grace of Bhagavan. And finally, Lokacharya explains how the Guru remains as the Upayam and Upayam for such a Prapanna. So these are the 6 sections where 6 principles are explained. In that we have completed the 3rd section in the last session. Now from 308th Sutram, we are going to see the 4th section, which is talking about Sadacharya Lakshanam, the qualities of a real Acharya, true Acharya. Why the word Sadacharya? That is because one may have many teachers. Someone may have taught a person maths. Someone may have taught language skills. Someone may have taught other various aspects. Even in Bhagavad Vishayam, someone may have taught Itihasams, Puranams, Bhagavad Gita. But beyond all of that, the one who teaches Rahasya Trayam, Tirumantram, Dvayam, Charma Shlokam, such person is known as the true Acharya. And Lokacharya is going to explain that in the subsequent sutram, that generally the Samashrayana Acharya, the one who performs Panchasamskaram, he will be the Sadacharya, because as part of the 5 samskaras, mantropadesham is also there. The Acharya, in addition to teaching the mantrams, he also needs to explain the meanings of the mantrams. So generally, it is the one who performs Panchasamskaram who will also explain the Rahasya Trayam meanings. But in some other cases, for others, it is possible that one may learn all these rahasyatrayam from another Acharya, another scholar. In any case, here the main focus is on Acharya who teaches the Rahasya principles very clearly, and he is glorified as Sadacharya. All other principles which are taught by anyone else, we need to respect them, but still they won't qualify to be called as Sadacharya. Now in this section, Manavada Mamnigal gives a detailed introduction where he highlights what are all the principles being explained by Pillai Lokacharya in this section. Manavada Mamnigal's commentary is the main source of light for us in understanding these sutrams of Pillai Lokacharya, with the help of which we are going through these meanings. Now let us see these sutrams today, starting from 308th sutram. First, Mamnigal's introduction for the 308th sutram and this particular section. So after explaining the conduct of a prapanna in the previous section, now Pillai Lokacharya starts in this sutram, 308th sutram, Tan hithOpadhESam paNNumbOdhu, from this sutram till Ugappum Upakara Smritiyam Nadakavenum up to 365th sutram. In these sutrams, the Upadeshta, that is the one who teaches all of these principles, whatever these principles are taught by a particular Acharya. In Acharyas, with respect to that Acharya, the disciple should have a lot of commitment, dedication, sincerity, service, surrender, and so on. To reveal those principles, first Pillai Lokacharya explains Sadacharya Lakshanam, how a Sadacharya will be, how a true Guru will be, and then Satshishya Lakshanam, how a true disciple will be, how a true Sishya will be, and then the interactions between these two, Sadacharya and Satshishya. All of these are explained by Pillai Lokacharya in great detail. Now, in continuation with previous principles as well, previous sutrams as well, in the nishidhdha, that is forbidden activities, which were explained as a person should be incapable of engaging in. These forbidden aspects such as akritya karanam, bhagavath apacharam, bhagavata apacharam, asahya apacharam, all of these are all aspects which one should be incapable of engaging in. That was explained previously. Now, even more than all of those aspects, there is something which is even more severe from cruelty perspective. That is, instructing others. While instructing others, what are all the misunderstandings one may have? That principle need to be understood, and this is specifically for an Acharya who is teaching, who is instructing others. For such person, it must be understood clearly that they should have very clear understanding about certain principles. Those principles and the possible misunderstandings are all highlighted in the particular sutram and going forward in the subsequent sutrams. So that is the introduction for this particular sutram, 308th sutram. Tan hithOpadhESam paNNumbOdhu thannaiyum, Sishyanayum, palaththaiyum, mARAdi ninaikkai, krUra nishidhdham. So here, Lokacharya is saying, while giving instructions for the well-being of others, it is very cruelly forbidden to wrongly understand about self, the disciple, and the purpose of the instructions. If someone gives instructions to another person, if someone gives instruction to another a disciple, for example, if someone is giving advice, if someone is explaining these principles, while doing so, if one misunderstands self, the disciple, and the purpose of this effort of teaching someone, then that is very, very cruelly impacting for the self and the disciple, of course. So that is the simple explanation for the sutram. Mamnigal explains in the commentary. In this tan hithOpadhESam paNNumbOdhu, in this particular sentence, if one is well qualified, as explained in the previous sutrams, we've seen the Dinacharya Sutram, how a particular Sri Vaishnava Prapanna should conduct himself. What is the importance of Mangala Shasanam? Who are Anukulas, who are Pratikulas, who are favorable and who are unfavorable, how to interact with them, and then what are the different types of apacharams. All of these were seen previously. If one is well qualified in all of these principles, now looking at such persons, there may be others who are seeking upliftment, liberation. They will naturally tend to take guidance, mentorship from those who are well situated in these principles. While such persons come as disciples and try to learn from the particular person who is well situated in the principles of how a prapanna should be, at that time, if one thinks about self or the person who is coming to learn or about the purpose of the effort, teaching someone, teaching all of these very important principles, if someone misunderstands these three principles, then that is even more cruel than previously highlighted apacharams, such as Bhagavad Apacharam, Bhagavata Apacharam, Asahya Apacharam. We already saw that each one is more cruel than others. We saw in great detail previously. That is, if one violates general Shastram rules, then Bhagavan just feels upset that this person is violating the principle of Shastra. But if one performs Bhagavad Apacharam, then Bhagavan becomes even more offended. I have helped all along this particular Jivatma. Now he is going against me. Directly he is offending me. That is the second level of cruelty, severe nature. And then third level is Bhagavata Apacharam. If one harms Bhagavatas by mind, speech or body, then Bhagavan becomes even more offended. Let alone he was offending me, now he is starting to offend my dear devotees. So that will cause even more hurt in Bhagavan's divine heart. And Asahya Pacharam, unbearable offenses. If one commits them, then Bhagavan becomes even more offended. Now, this particular, after seeing those aspects, that is the cruelty keeps increasing in every stage. Now, when one comes to the stage of advising others, at that time, if one misunderstands self or the role of the person who is learning or the purpose of that exercise of teaching someone, then it is even more cruel. It is even more impacting, because Bhagavan will become even more offended. Now he has come to this stage, but he has still not understood. He is trying to teach others, but he has not understood his own nature. He has not understood his own purpose of teaching others, and he has not understood who that person who is learning is. So that without all of that understanding, if someone is advising others, mentoring others, then that is very, very cruel, says Manavada Mamnigal in the commentary. Now, the reason for this is when we talk about Akritya Karana, Bhagavadapachara, Bhagavatapachara, Asahyapachara, in all of those cases, when one commits a mistake or an offense, that only affects that individual who is performing the mistake, committing the mistake. But here, when someone is advising another person, mentoring, guiding another person, if he wrongly guides the other person, then it is going to affect the teacher as well as the student. Both are getting affected. So Bhagavan becomes very much offended if one does not have clear understanding about self, disciple, and the purpose or the goal of the exercise of teaching the disciple. So that is explained in this particular commentary by Mamnigal. In the 312th Sutram, Pallilokacharya himself is going to say that Iruvarkum Swarupa Siddhi illai. That is, if one does not have a clear understanding about self, disciple, and the goal of the teaching, then both the teacher and the student will not have their true nature understood. Both of them will not be situated in their true nature. So Pallilokacharya is going to explain himself, says Mamnigal. Hence, because this is harming the interest of both the self and the disciple, any misunderstanding here would be very, very harmful, says Pallilokacharya. That is why in the olden days, our Purvacharyas would be very, very hesitant in taking up the role of Acharya, especially in these principles, because they would want to ensure that they have understood these principles very, very clearly, having studied under scholars, acharyas for a long time, and then only they will take up teaching others. It is not that I start learning today and then in a month's time I start teaching others. Sharing knowledge is slightly different from taking up the role of a mentor. Sharing knowledge, whatever we learn, within that extent, we can share with others. But when we take up the role of mentoring and someone totally depending upon us, at that time we need to be well prepared, well studied under the guidance of good acharyas. Only when one is a good disciple, one can become a good acharya. We have seen in the lives of our Purva acharyas how Bhagavad Ramanuja remained as the perfect disciple for all his acharyas, Tirukoshtir Nambi, Periya Nambi, Tiruvaranga Perumal, Arayar, Tirumalai Andan, all of these acharyas, Periya Tirumalai Nambi, they were all well served by Bhagavad Ramanuja first. And being their dear disciple, having their abhimanam, their respect, only then he becomes an acharya, and then he leads others by example. So from our Purvacharya's lives, we can see that one do not easily take up this position of teaching others, especially when it comes to these very in-depth matters. So that is because misguiding someone will lead to harm to self as well as the disciple. That is the main reason why there will be a lot of hesitation in taking up this particular responsibility. So that is 308th Sutram. Now next is 309th Sutram. Now, what is that misunderstanding one may have? That is the question. For that question, Pililokacharya is giving the answer, giving the elaborate explanation for how one can misunderstand oneself, how one can misunderstand the disciple, how one can misunderstand the purpose or the goal of this teaching. That is explained in this particular sutram, 309th sutram. Let us see the sutram. Tannai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, tannai AchAryan enru ninaikkai. Sishyanai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, thanakku Sishyan enru ninaikkai. palatthai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, dhrushta prayOjanaththaiyum, Sishyanudaiya ujjIvanaththaiyum, bhagavath kainkaryaththaiyum, sahavAsaththaiyum, palamAga ninaikkai. So very interesting, very in-depth meaning in this particular sutram. How an Acharya should think about himself, how an Acharya should think about the disciple, and how an Acharya should think about the result or the goal of this particular exercise. That is explained very nicely by Pililokacharya here. Thannai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, tannai AchAryan enru ninaikkai. First mistake one should not do is to consider oneself as the Acharya. One should never do that. Manavada Mamnigal is going to explain that in detail. We will see at that time. But first mistake one should not do is to not think about oneself as the Acharya. Even though one may be teaching, one cannot think that I am the Acharya, I am the teacher, I know everything. That thought process should not be there to start with. Sishyanai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, thanakku Sishyan enru ninaikkai. Misunderstanding with reference to the Shishya, disciple, is to think that this person is my Sishya, my disciple. To consider in that manner, that is again another mistake, another misunderstanding. And then palatthai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, having misunderstanding about the result, that is expecting dhrushta prayOjanam. Dhrushta prayOjanam means materialistic benefits. And then Shishya's ujjivanam, the upliftment of the disciple. And then third aspect is bhagavath kainkaryam, thinking that this is a kainkaryam which I am doing to Bhagavan. And then finally sahavasam. Sahavasam is having a good companion in the disciple, thinking that I am teaching so that I will have good companion with me. So all of these four thoughts with reference to the palam, with reference to the result of our teaching, they are all wrong, says Pililokacharya. Now this is very, very in-depth, very deep principle we need to understand with the help of Mamnigal's commentary. Without that, it would be very, very difficult to understand this principle. Let us see how Mamnigal explains this. Thannai mARAdi ninaikkaiyAvadhu, starting with this Mamnigal's commentary, that is Upadeshta. Upadeshta means the one who instructs. Such person, instead of thinking about him in the proper way, thinking about himself in the wrong way. What is that? While giving the instruction, while mentoring others, one should think that my Acharya, the one who taught me all of these, he is the one who is teaching to this person who is listening from me through me. My Acharya is having me as his faculty, that is his karana, his hand or his mouth. So I am just representing my Acharya. I am not teaching on my own. So I am not the Acharya here. My Acharya is the Acharya. And this person is merely receiving all of these instruction through me. I am just a via medium for the instructions. So that is the correct understanding. The wrong understanding is thinking that I am the one who is directly teaching to this person. So this is why usually Acharyas will think that all of these persons who are listening, who are learning, whom we are teaching, they are all disciples of my Acharya. So in this manner, every Acharya thinks that this person is listening from my Acharya. So in the end, it goes all the way up to Bhagavad Ramanuja, who is the main Acharya of our Sampradayam. He is considered as the Pravartakacharya, Sampradaya Pravartakacharya, the main Acharya who well established the Sampradayam so that everyone gets benefited by these principles. So this principle is very, very important. When one teaches others, at that time one should think that I am only a medium through which my Acharya is teaching here. So that is the misunderstanding which need to be cleared for the person who is teaching. So that is first principle. And then the Shishya, disciple, he must be considered properly, and misunderstanding his position, his role is considering him to be that person who is learning from us to be my own disciple, instead of thinking that he is my Acharya's disciple. So previously, the previous point was about the Acharya position. I am not the Acharya, my Acharya is the Acharya. That understanding should be there. Here, it is about the disciple. When we look at the disciple, we should not think that he is my disciple. Rather, we should think that he is a student like me under my Acharya. I am just sharing whatever I have learned from my Acharya. We are just discussing and we are sharing our thoughts. That is how one should consider one's disciple. If one is teaching someone, one should just think that whatever I have learned from my Acharya is teaching all of those through me to this particular disciple. So I am also learning along here. Just as I am teaching to this person, I am also learning along by recollecting what my Acharya thought, by looking at the Grantham again. In all these ways, I am refreshing my own knowledge, and I am also sharing the knowledge which I have received from my Acharya, considering this person as a disciple to my Acharya. So that is the correct understanding. And then Upadesha Phalam, the benefit, the result of this advice, the instruction, the mentorship which we do, that should be the only main goal. The only goal should be to make this person as a Mangala Shasana Para, one who performs Mangala Shasanam to Bhagavan. The goal of sharing knowledge to someone else is to ensure that the other person understands that our goal in life is to perform Mangala Shasanam to Bhagavan. That is the main goal. We have seen about Mangala Shasanam in the previous sections in great detail. That is the activity which matches the true nature of the self. So that is the ideal way. Now, what is the wrong way of understanding the result of teaching someone? Those are explained here. Dhrushta palam. Dhrushta palam means expecting that the disciple who is learning from us will give us some financial favors. They will come and do some service for us personally. They'll come and help in the house. They'll help in household activities. So these expectations should not be present in the person who is teaching, the Acharya, the one who is doing Upadesham. He should not think that this person is learning from me. For that he will be grateful and he will in return do me financial favors. He will go and spread my fame. He will go and spread my, he will take care of my needs, physical needs, and so on. So such expectations should not be there. So that is not the result. That is not the goal of teaching. That is the first principle. Second aspect, the Shishya should be uplifted from this samsara. That is also not the goal here. The goal is to create someone who can perform Mangala Shasanam. The goal is always focused on Bhagavan, not the Jivatma. Because Pililokacharya is going to explain in subsequent sutrams that all of these will occur. Whatever we say that the Acharya should not expect from the Shishya, they will naturally occur. But that is not the expectation of the Acharya. The expectation of the Acharya is only to create Mangala Shasana Para to Bhagavan. We only need persons who are ready to perform Mangala Shasanam. That is the only goal for us to teach others. We should not have any other goal. I should not think that I am going to help this person liberated. I should not think that I'm going to get some help from him financially, physically, and so on. So that is the second aspect, is to not consider the upliftment of the disciple as the ultimate goal. That is not the ultimate goal. And then third, one should not think that this is a kainkaryam. That too, this is a better kainkaryam than something else I could have done. So we may not, we may think, when we are teaching others, we may think, here I am bringing a bhakta, bringing up a bhakta for Bhagavan. I am bringing up someone who can serve Bhagavan and so on. And if we think that this is better than doing some kainkaryam in the temple or doing some kainkaryam in the garden, maintaining the garden, preparing flower garlands and so on, rather than doing that, I am doing a higher kainkaryam, which is to bring people to Bhagavan. What a great person I am. So such thought process should not be there. That is the third principle. In the goal, we should not think that this is the goal. That is, I am doing something which is better than doing kainkaryam to Bhagavan. That is not the thought process one should have. And then finally, one should not think that, okay, while I am remaining in the samsara, there's going to be some time between the time when I perform surrender to Bhagavan and then the time when I leave this body and ascend to Paramapadam. So there is some time frame, 30 years, 20 years, 50 years, 5 years, we don't know. In that time, how do I spend my time? So I need good companion. So let me instruct these people so that they become good companions, so that we can discuss good Bhagavad Vishayam, good principles about Bhagavan, Vedam and so on. So that is not the expectation also here. Our expectation again is to only create Mangala Shasana Para. That is the only expectation. We should not have any other expectation, because we may think these four different things are very good. If a person learns from me, they should come and serve me. It is natural for me to expect. If I instruct someone, if I advise someone, Okay, is it audible now? I think so. Okay. Looks like we have some network problem. Now we are back. Okay, let's continue. Okay. So in this manner, if we confuse the result in any of these four ways, considering the physical or financial or other benefits, material benefits from the disciple, if we consider that this is a way to uplift the disciple, or if we consider that this is a particular kainkaryam which is better than other kainkaryams which I am doing, or if we consider this as a way to get good companions in this while remaining in this world. So all of these expectations should not be present. These are not the goals. Any such understanding is a misunderstanding from the goal perspective. That is explained in this particular sutram, 309th sutram. Now let us see 310th sutram, Mamnigal's introduction. Now one may, if one is not familiar with our Purvacharya's granthams, one may even be shocked to hear that these principles need to be clearly understood, and these principles even exist, because one will naturally think that one is a disciple. If someone is coming and learning from us, one will think oneself as the Acharya, as the Guru, if one is teaching, and then one will also have expectations while teaching to a particular disciple. So these are natural, one may think, but one may be even shocked to hear that our Acharyas have explained the important understanding one should have in these principles. Now, when these principles are not thought about, how these particular goals, these four goals especially, how they are attained, how they are accomplished, because that is also required. Because when the Acharya Sishya Parampara need to extend, there must be some relationship between the Sishya and the Acharya. Some understanding should be there. Some Acharya should be guiding the disciple towards liberation. The Acharya should be cared by the disciple. The disciple should care for the Acharya, take care of his needs. So all of these are expected. All of these are required, so that the Acharya Sishya Parampara keeps continuing. It is not just going to stop with this, because if there is no such benefit, at some point the chain will stop. It will not grow. So the question arises, how does these benefits are acquired? How do these benefits are acquired? That Pilalokacharya is answering in the next sutram, 310th sutram. ninaiyAdhirukka innAlu palamum siddhikirapadiyan ennil. SEshabhUthanAna Sishyan ninaivale dhrushta palam siddhikum. ஈஸ்வர நினைவாலே உஜ்ஜீவனம் சித்திக்கும். ஆச்சாரியன் நினைவாலே பகவத் கைங்கரியம் சித்திக்கும். உபகார ஸ்மிருதியாலே சகவாசம் சித்திக்கும். So all these four results will be accomplished by natural order, based on the interest of various personalities that is being explained in this sutram. ninaiyAdhirukka, when the Acharya is not thinking about these results, when the Acharya is not working with these expectations, how these expectations are fulfilled? That is the question. For that, Trilokacharya is answering. SEshabhUthanAna Sishyan ninaivale dhrushta palam siddhikum. SEshabhUtha, the servitor. Acharya is the master. Shishya is the disciple, is the servitor. Now, by the thoughts of the disciple, dhrushta palam, whatever material needs of the Acharya, that will be naturally fulfilled. Ishvara ninaivale ujjivanam siddhikum. By the thought of the Ishvara, Bhagavan himself, the upliftment of the Jivatma will occur. The Jivatma should be uplifted, should be liberated. That will happen by the kind thought of Bhagavan, Ishvara. AchAryan ninevale bhagavath kainkaryam siddhikum. By the thought of the Acharya, the one who is teaching, his Acharya will look this person and think, oh, my disciple is acting according to Shastram, acting according to Sampradayam. He is teaching without any expectation. He is doing a wonderful kainkaryam. So with that thought process, the kainkaryam aspect will be accomplished. And finally, sahavasam, good companionship. How will that succeed? How will that occur? Upakara smritiyale sahavasam siddhikum. By the gratitude of the disciple, the sahavasam, that is companionship, will be accomplished. That is the simple explanation for this sutram. Let us see Mal's commentary. He gives a very, very clear explanation for these principles. These are very, very important to understand. This whole section, Sadacharya Sevanam, Sadguru Sevanam, that is very, very important for us to understand, because we should be engaging in service towards our Acharya in the proper way. For that, how a true Acharya should remain, that is the first principle being explained. Next, Sat Sishya Lakshanam, the quality of the disciple will be explained next, and then the interactions will be explained further. So here, in the Sutram, Mamnigal's commentary, let us see that. Now, Shishya, SEshabhUthanAna Sishyan dhrushta palam siddhikum. The materialistic benefits which are required for the Acharya. I mean, it is not required for the Acharya, he is not expecting it, but for natural living in this world, there are certain needs which are present, and all of those need to be fulfilled by the disciple. It is the responsibility of the disciple to take care of the Acharya's whole bodily needs, whatever financial, whatever domestic, all of those need to be taken care by the. It is the way it is shown by our Acharyas, by Shastram and so on. Now, all of that be accomplished by the thought process of the disciple. Even though the Acharya thinks that this is not my disciple, he is my Acharya's disciple. That is what the Acharya thinks. That is what the person who is teaching is thinking. But now the disciple is not ignorant. The fact that he is coming to the level of learning these principles, these high principles, he will have very, very good clarity about the person who is teaching all of these principles to him. So he will have so much respect and so much emotions towards the Acharya who is taking all of this time and explaining all of these principles. Because of that thought process, the disciple will also think, when we don't have akinchit karasya sheshatva anupatihi, says Shastram, akinchit karasya, when one does not engage in little bit of service, then there is no sheshatvam existing in that particular person, no servitude existing in that person. So one must serve. If that is a disciple, then one must serve. So because the Shishya is also knowledgeable, the fact that the Shishya has come so far, he has come up to this level of learning Sampradayam, he will be very, very, he will have a very clear idea about fundamentals of how a Shishya should be. So because of his understanding, his dedication and sincerity towards the Acharya, all the dhrushta palam, that is all the physical needs, bodily needs, domestic needs, all of this will be there by the disciple without even the Acharya expecting any of it. So even if we go to an Acharya nowadays, or even now, if we go to an Acharya and say, shall we give you this particular financial help? Shall we come and do this particular help in your residence, in your Tirumaligai? Shall we come and help you in these aspects? The Acharya will say, no, no, it is okay. I can take care of those. No need for anything. You can use that from other kind. It is the way Acharya will say. Because that, we cannot just ignore the Acharya and move on with our life, continue on with life. One should still serve the Acharya sincerely, utmost interest and dedication. That is the responsibility. The Acharya requires the help or not. The disciple's duty is to find out where exactly the help is required, and he must fulfill those help. That is the disciple's responsibility. So based on the disciple's interest and responsibility, this will happen, says Manavad Mamni in the commentary. Then Ishvara ninaikkai ujjIvanam siddhikum. How does one get liberated? It is Bhagavan who is creating from the beginning advesham, abhimukyam, and then finally Bhagavan brought the disciple to an Acharya and connected them. Now further the Bhagavan himself, with his great mercy, he will ensure that the Shishya is uplifted. So this ujjivanam will also accomplished. And then third, AchAryan ninaivale bhagavath kainkaryam siddhikum. The person who is teaching, his Acharya will be looking at all of these, looking at his disciple, and will be feeling very happy that my disciple is he has become an Acharya. He is teaching others, he is guiding others, he is doing a very important kainkaryam, and this is a bhagavath kainkaryam. That is how the true Acharya will be thinking. The Acharya will be thinking in this way, and he will be feeling very happy, blissful about his disciples' role in this particular world. So because of that, by the nature of the activity as well as by the thought process of one's Acharya, this act of reforming others, mentoring others, that will also become a kainkaryam. So that is the third aspect. And finally, upakara smritiyale sahavasam siddhikum. Upakara smriti means remembering the help done by Acharya. Because of that gratitude, one will remain close to the Acharya. One will live the Acharya and will constantly serve. Manavad Mamnigal explains in Upadesha Ratinamalai, thannaiyumakku thaan adimai seivadhu avan innadu thannil irukkaal. Only when the Acharya is remaining in this world, one can serve the Acharya. So he must or she must make use of the opportunity and serve the Acharya as much as possible. That is explained by Mamnigal himself. So in this manner, the disciple, understanding well that one has to remain in the close circle of the Acharya and do kainkaryam, because of his great favors only we are understanding all of these principles and so on. The Sishya will remain without separating the Acharya anytime. This is what we saw yesterday also. We saw in the Manavad Mamnigal's greatness. He remained with Thiruvai Pillai as long as Thiruvai Pillai was in this world. Only when Thiruvai Pillai left to Paramapadam, then only Manavad Mamnigal left Alva Tirunari and came to Srirangam. So in this manner, the sahavasam will naturally and automatically happen based on the gratitude of the disciple towards the Acharya, says Prayolokacharya in this particular. Next, 311th Sutram. In the 11th Sutram, let us see Mamnigal's introduction first. Now, after explaining that these four results, these four goals will be accomplished by Shishya, Ishvara, and one's own Acharya, because of their thought process, all of these four results will be accomplished. Now, after that, Prayolokacharya is going to explain the real result, the Sakshat Palam. Sakshat Palam means the ultimate goal, which is to have Mangala Shasanam, and then Acharyatvam. Acharyatvam means being an Acharya, having that role of Acharya for the person who is teaching. So for the person who is teaching, Acharyatvam is required, and for the disciple, the ultimate goal is required. How do these two aspects are accomplished? That is explained by Prayolokacharya in this particular Sutram. Sakshat palamum Acharyathamum siddhikirapadi ennil tanninaiyvalum Ishvara ninaivalum siddhikum. So Here, Sakshat Palam is Mangala Shasanam. For the disciple, Mangala Shasanam is the ultimate goal that will be accomplished. Similarly, for the person who is teaching, that Acharyatvam means being the Acharya, that quality. How are those accomplished? How are those acquired? That is the question. For that, the answer is thannaiyum. Thannaiyum means here the Acharya's thought process. Acharya is desiring that we are going to create Mangala Shasana Para for the for Bhagavan. So with that thought, the disciple will become a Mangala Shasana Para and the Sakshat Palam will be accomplished. And then Acharyatvam, that one is a Acharya, that particular aspect will be accomplished by Bhagavan's thought process. Bhagavan will consider that this is a person who is teaching all of the people here about Mangala Shasanam and guiding them towards performing Mangala Shasanam. Hence, he must be considered as an Acharya. That will be determined by Bhagavan himself. So, these two, Sakshat Palam and Acharyatvam, will be accomplished by the thought process of the self and thought process of Bhagavan. That is explained in this particular sutram, Mamnigal's commentary. So, Sakshat Palam means the person who is the target of the Acharya's Upadesham, instructions, that person becoming reformed and becoming a Mangala Shasana Para. That is the ultimate goal. We all want to be performing Mangala Shasanam, and that is accomplished. That is the final ultimate goal to be accomplished here. Now, how is that accomplished by the Acharya's thought process? This here, Acharya is the person who is now teaching, that direct person. How is that accomplished by his thought process? That is the question. For that, the answer is Upadeshtha. Upadeshtha means the person who is teaching. What is he having in his mind? He is having this intention of making this person who is ordinary to become a Mangala Shasana Para, to become a person who is focused on Mangala Shasanam. That is the goal of the real goal of the Acharya. That is the real intent of the Acharya. If he has that pure intent, then that will be fulfilled. That will be accomplished. Mamnigal in the commentary. So the ultimate goal of the disciple becoming a Mangala Shasana Para will occur based on the desire of the Acharya who is teaching. Now, Acharyatvam. Now, though the Acharya, that is the person who is teaching, he will consider himself to be totally a Paratantra of his Acharya. I will always think that I am a disciple of my Acharya. I am totally subservient to my Acharya. Still, the Acharyatvam, that is, this person is also an Acharya, being an Acharya, that will be acquired by Ishvara's thought process, Bhagavan's desire. That is, Bhagavan will become very pleased looking at such person, thinking this person is teaching without any expectation, without any self-desire. He is having clear understanding about who he is, who the disciple is, and what the goal is. So such person is the one really who is qualifying to become an Acharya. So that will be the thought process of Bhagavan, and Bhagavan will consider this person to be an Acharya. So these three aspects, these two aspects, Sakshat Palam and Acharyatvam, will be accomplished by one's own thought process and Bhagavan's desire. One's own desire and Bhagavan's desire. So that is 311th sutram. Next is 312th sutram. Now, if a question arises here, what if one teaches two disciples without the proper understanding with respect to self, with respect to the disciple, and with respect to the results? If one doesn't have the clear understanding, and if one has misunderstandings in any of these, that is the question. For that, Mamnigal is explaining in the country that Pilokacharya is categorically rejecting the both Acharya and disciple because they will not have their true nature established. That is explained in this particular 300. இப்படியுடைய உபதேசிக்கில் இருவருக்கும் ஸ்வரூப சித்தி இல்லை. If one doesn't instruct, advise in this manner, then both the teacher as well as the disciple, the student, will not have the true nature established. Their true nature of being a paratantra of Bhagavan will not be established when the matter which is taught is not proper, when the person who is teaching does not have this clear understanding, the disciple is not having any of these understanding, then both the teacher as well as the disciple will not have the swarupa siddhi, that is, will not have the true nature in them. Says Pillai. Let us see Mamnigal's commentary. Iruvarkum swarupa siddhi illai, that is, unless one teaches as it was explained previously, since Bhagavan will not consider this person to be Acharya. We saw in the previous sutram that Bhagavan considers the teacher to be an Acharya only when he teaches without any expectation for results, without any misunderstanding in the self as well as disciple. Only then Bhagavan will consider such person as an Acharya. In other case, Bhagavan is not going to even consider such person as an Acharya. Hence, because of that loss, then because the misunderstanding is there, Bhagavan will not think that this person is a qualified Acharya, and because of that, that person will not have Acharyatvam. And because that particular person does not even have the good quality of being an Acharya, whatever he instructs to the disciple, that will also be wrong. So, Upadesha Patra, the target of the instruction, that is the disciple, he will also lack in understanding of the true nature of the self. So, that is explained in the 312th Sutram. Next is 313th Sutram. Two qualities are required in the Acharya. What are those? That is explained in the particular Sutram. Acharyanukku Sishyan pakkal krupayum, Acharyan pakkal paratantriyamum venum. The Acharya should have mercy towards the disciple, and he should have paratantriya, total dependency towards his own Acharya. These two qualities are required in the Acharya. Seen similar to this in the beginning of SrIvachana bhUshaNam, while explaining the greatness of Pirati, where it was said that Pirati is the ideal Acharya. All the Acharyas who are present today in this world, they are all following the footsteps of Sri Mahalakshmi, because she is the first disciple of Bhagavan Sriman Narayana, and she is the one who explains all of these principles to the Jivatmas. Hence, she is considered as the prime example of Acharya. Now, the same principle is being shown here. Acharya should have mercy towards disciple, and then he should have total dependence towards his Acharya. That is explained in this particular Sutram. That is, Upadeshta, Acharya who is the Upadeshta, the one who is instructing, when the disciples come and request him to instruct good knowledge to them, he should think, alas, these persons are suffering in this samsara. How am I going to help them? So he should think in that manner, and he should show his mercy towards those people. So kripa is very, very important. Mercy is very, very important in the Acharya while dealing the disciple. Similarly, the Acharya should always think that I am not the doer. It is my Acharya who is doing all of this. I am just his tool. I am just his instrument in getting all of this done. So while thinking like that, one will have true Acharyatvam. So this should have mercy towards disciples and total dependence towards his Acharya. So those are explained in this particular Sutram, that is 13th Sutram. Finally, we see 314th Sutram today. Just one more Sutram. With this, we will conclude. Now, what is the result of having kripa towards the disciple and total dependence, parathantriyam towards the Acharya? That is the question. For that, Pillalokacharya is answering, Kripayale Shishyan Swarupam Jivi Siddhikum, Parathantriyatale Rupam Siddhikum. By the grace of Acharya, Shishya will realize his true nature. By one's total dependence, one will realize one's true nature. That is, by the mercy, the Acharya gives the true knowledge and true nature of the Sishya by his mercy. Now, by his total dependence on his Acharya, he will realize his own Swarupam, his own true nature. That is the simple meaning for the Sutram. Now, Mamnigal's commentary. That is, as the Acharya who keeps instructing, who keeps reforming the Jivatma constantly, who keeps reforming the disciple constantly, the Swarupam of the Shishya will become pure and pure and pure. Every day it will increase in purity, and ultimately the Shishya will realize his true nature. And then similarly, by considering oneself to be an instrument in the hands of his own Acharya, one will become very well situated in his own Parathantriyam by remaining the disciple of the Acharya and by always following the Acharya. That particular Parathantriyam is the concept which is very much essential in the Acharya also. The one who is teaching, he must have total dependence towards his Acharya so that his own Sheshatvam, Parathantriyam, all of that will be present in him, will be realized by him. So that is 314th Sutram. So with this, Mamnigal gives a brief commentary. Let us see that commentary and conclude the session. So here, up to 314th Sutram, Mamnigal is explaining the principles which are highlighted by Pillalokacharya while performing hithOpadhESam, good instructions to the Jivatma, to the disciple. One should have clear understanding about self, about disciple, and the result. That was explained, and misunderstanding in that are very cruelly forbidden. That was also explained in that. And then what are those aspects? What are those understandings and what are those misunderstandings? That was explained. Now, when the Acharya is not expecting any of those, how do those occur in the Acharya? That was the question, and that was answered subsequently. And then how one's ultimate goal of reforming a disciple to become a Mangala Shasana Para, and how one's own Acharya, being an Acharya, that will be realized, was explained. And if one teaches one's disciple the wrong way in this manner, then what happens? The Swarupam will not be even realized. The true nature will not be realized. That was also explained. And for the Acharya, what are all the two main qualities that was required in the particular Acharya? That is Kripai and Parathantriyam, that was explained. And finally, the phalam, the goal of having such Acharya, the result of having such these two aspects, that is the Sakshat Palam and the Acharyatvam, the result of these, the result of Kripa and Parathantriyam. Kripa towards the disciple and Parathantriyam towards the Acharya. What will that lead to? That was finally explained in the 314th Sutram. So that concludes the 314th Sutram. In the next session, we will see from 315th Sutram. 315th Sutram is very, very important. It explains who is the true Acharya, and in subsequent Sutrams, further these principles are elaborated. We'll see them in the next session. ஆழ்வார் திருவடிகளே சரணம், எம்பெருமானார் திருவடிகளே சரணம், பிள்ளை லோகாச்சாரியர் திருவடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருவடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருவடிகளே சரணம். Okay. We'll recite Palla and conclude the session. In the evening, we will have Nachiyar Tirumozhi concluding lecture today. Last 3 pasarams need to be seen. We'll see it in the evening today at 7:30 p.m. இன்னைக்கு சாயந்தரம் 7:30 மணிக்கு நாச்சியார் திருமொழி கடைசி 3 பாசங்கள் பார்க்கணும். அது யாருக்கு முடியறதோ கலந்து. பல்லாண்டு பல்லாண்டு பல்லாயிரத்தாண்டு பல நூறாயிரம் பல்லாண்டு நாம் சேவை செய்வது பல்லாண்டு வடிவாய் என்பதுமார் நெல் வாழ்கிற மங்கையும் பல்லாண்டு வடிவார் சோதி வளத்துறையும் சுடராழியம் பல்லாண்டு படைப்போர் புக்கும் முழங்கும் அப்பாஞ்ச சன்னியமும் பல்லாண்டே. அடியேன் ராமாதாஸ்.